Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday evening, September 10th. Hurricane Florence is now a Category 4 major hurricane. It rapidly intensified today from a Category 2 status this morning to a major Category 4 status this evening with winds, maximum sustained winds at 140 miles per hour. It is moving to the west-northwest at 14 miles per hour, and a well-defined eye right now exists here over the past couple of hours as it continues to move to the west-northwest. Really no signs of it slowing down in terms of intensification. In fact, there's an outside chance that this storm reaches Category 5 status within the next 24 or 48 hours or so. It very likely will maintain major hurricane status, that is Category 3, 4, or 5, till around landfall. Looks like landfall somewhere around the Carolina coastline, perhaps near the North Carolina, South Carolina border region late in the day and Thursday night, or into early Friday morning. Once this makes landfall, it will run into an atmospheric roadblock. A very strong high pressure ridge to the north and to the east will help to slow down Florence to a crawl. That will allow for some tremendous rainfall amounts in the Carolinas, perhaps parts of the Mid-Atlantic region as well, not only on Friday, but Saturday, Sunday, and perhaps even Monday as well. It looks like an extended period of heavy rainfall and strong winds in inland locations, and of course, the worst wind damage will occur along coastal Carolina, again, Thursday night time frame, perhaps into early Friday morning. Well, here's the latest positioning of 4 different tropical systems on the table right now. First of all, Florence, located right in this region, it is now moving west-northwest in this fashion, has accelerated a little bit over the past several hours, will continue to move to the west-northwest, right towards the Carolina coastline. It looks like landfall right in this region right here, late Thursday night, perhaps early Friday time frame. And again, because of a tremendous high to the north here, basically a blocking pattern in the upper part of the atmosphere, an atmospheric roadblock, this storm, once it makes landfall, will come to a grinding halt and basically spin around for a few days and cause an extended period of heavy rainfall, perhaps Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in much of the Carolina region, as well as parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, landfall likely late Thursday night, perhaps early Friday time frame, right in this region right here. Meanwhile, a new player on the scene. This is a tropical disturbance right here. It will head towards Texas over the next few days, and ultimately it may then turn back around and play a role in the exit of Florence here sometime in the early part of next week. Still a little unclear exactly how this will unfold during the latter part of the weekend or the early part of next week. Again, Florence will stall out in this region right in here and eventually get kicked out to the east, although there is a scenario where it never gets kicked out, it just basically dissipates, and that again is possibly going to be during the early part of next week. Meanwhile, in the eastern Atlantic, we have Isaac and Helene. Helene is farther to the east here, and it got the H name because it developed into a tropical storm before Isaac did. Helene looks like it'll curve to the north and stay out over the open Atlantic. Isaac, meanwhile, looks like it'll head westward, continue to head westward, right into the Caribbean Sea. Now here's the latest model spread for the European model, the 12Z run of the European model in terms of potential storm tracks for Florence. First of all, a couple things to point out. The black here represents the ensemble mean, and the blue, the deterministic or the operational run of the European model. Notice also a lot of members in the ensemble out in this region, some members out in this region, still a rather wide spread here. Even with just 3 days to go now before potential landfall. I think one of the reasons is that new player, that tropical disturbance right in this region right here, that kind of throws a little different wrinkle in the overall weather pattern, but still not quite solidified on a final solution in terms of the storm track. But most signs point to somewhere around the North Carolina, South Carolina border region, perhaps as a major hurricane, Category 3 or 4 likely at landfall late Thursday night, early Friday time frame. Then it runs into that atmospheric roadblock, basically stalls out in this region right in here. Eventually it could kick out to the east or simply sit and spin until it finally dissipates during the early part of next week. Now, one of the worst things for a community, of course, is to get hit by a hurricane, but even worse than just getting hit by an ordinary hurricane is the prospects with a stalling out or a nearly stationary hurricane. And we've had a few in the past several decades. In fact, as early as a year ago, of course, we had Hurricane Harvey, which basically stalled out near the southeastern part of Texas and flooded Houston, for example, with several inches, perhaps a couple of feet of rain in that area. These are storm tracks from a couple of other systems that come to my mind when I think of stalling out or nearly stationary tropical systems that just dump flooding rainfall. Way back in June of 1972, Tropical Storm Agnes rode up the East Coast. At first was a hurricane over the Gulf of Mexico. Then it kind of ran into a blocking pattern. And as it reached the New Jersey, Pennsylvania latitude, it pretty much stalled out and really eventually just turned to the northwest, moved into the northern part of Pennsylvania and got stuck, and basically never really did leave the scene. It just dissipated away. And of course the result was flooding rainfall in much of Pennsylvania, one of the worst natural disasters in Pennsylvania in the last 50 years or so. Again, that was kind of a stalled out Tropical Storm Agnes back in June of 1972. Perhaps one of the most remarkable stories is the track of Hurricane Flora back in 1963. This crossed over Cuba, ran into a blocking pattern, and took a loop back around. And whenever a storm like this takes a loop, it means it's an extended period of heavy rainfall and strong winds, and ultimately then kicked out to the north and east. But some areas reported up to 100 inches of rain on the island of Cuba with this particular stalled out system. So again, this is one of the problems coming up here in the Carolinas, perhaps parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. The fact that Florence will run into this atmospheric brick wall and stall, and therefore be an extended period of heavy rainfall, perhaps 3 or 4 days in some areas, on top of well-saturated soils. And we've had rainfall right up until today, some of which came from the remains of Tropical Storm Gordon, but we've had heavy rainfall in much of the Mid-Atlantic region, much of the eastern U.S. for the past couple of months. And here we have Hurricane Florence headed our way. Well, the final map I'd like to show this evening comes from NOAA's prediction for the next 7 days total rainfall amounts. And here we go again with excessive rainfall amounts predicted for the next 7 days from Hurricane Florence. And the peak region from North Carolina into the western part of Virginia, right in this region, but really anywhere within this circle has to be prepared for potential heavy rainfall. Again, Florence likely to hit the Carolina coastline right in this region right here late in the day on Thursday or Thursday night, perhaps in the early Friday morning, then continue to move to the north and west. Try to move to the north, but basically will stall out, and there'll be an extended period of heavy rainfall over the Carolinas and in parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. So that's it for now. For PerspectaWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.